Now in this video, we are going to clarify how to use an array in Java. In order to use an array in Java, you can follow the syntax that I have shown in the right hand side of the slide. While understanding the syntax, we will specifically focus on two different things: how to declare, initialize, and populate the array with some real data items, and second, how to print an array. So let us start with the first thing: how to declare an array and then initialize or assign or populate the array with some real data item. There are two different ways how you can declare and populate the array. So in the first method, you can follow this syntax where actually I have declare as well as initialize or populate the array in the same line. So let us try to focus on each part of this line, what I have done. So the first part of this line is a data type, which is basically saying what type of array you want to declare. In our case, I want to store 5, 9, 22, 6, all the different whole numbers inside my array. And that's why I have defined the array as integer type. If you wanted to store like A, B, M, N, all different types of characters in the array, you could specify cat instead of int. And if you wanted to store some fractional number with some decimal point, then you could specify double, something like that. But in this example, let us stick to only integer over here. Now, after specifying the data type, which is int in our case, then you have to specify this opening and closing box bracket. Now, this is when you are telling the Java compiler that, well, now I am going to declare an array type variable, not a normal variable. So this is how you are telling the Java compiler by saying this opening and closing set of box bracket that this is going to be a very special array type variable, not the normal type. Now, after that, you have to use this variable name. Here I have used array1, but well, you are free to use any variable name of your choice. Just remember to follow the variable naming rule. Now, once you have declared it, now it's the time to assign all the values to an array. In order to assign the values, of course, you have to start it with an assignment operator, or this is just an equals symbol. So after this equals symbol, now you have some syntax to follow in order to assign or some real data items in an array or to populate the array. What is the syntax? First, you have to use this new keyword in order to start the assignment or populating the array. What this new keyword is doing is, it is basically telling the Java compiler that now I am ready to initialize an entirely new array. Well, this new keyword has a significance in terms of object-oriented program, but we are not going into the deeper of it, but just will in this course we will just consider it as a syntactical sugar. So use this new keyword to initialize an array. After this new keyword, you have to again write this int followed by opening and closing box bracket, exactly the same way that you have done in the beginning of the line. So this is again as a whole, this new int then followed by opening and closing box bracket, this is basically saying the Java compiler that, well, I am going to initialize an entirely new integer array. After this, now it's a time to actually initialize the array or populate the array with some real data item. In order to do that, you have to enclose all the data items that you want to store in the array inside an opening and closing curly brace like this. And inside this curly brace, you have to write down all the data items that you want to store. In our case, it is 5, 9, 22, and 6. These 4 data items, and you have to write those data items inside this curly brace uh, using in a comma separated fashion like this. That is, each of the data items should be separated by a comma. Now, whenever you will do this, Java compiler will automatically assign the element at the beginning, that is 5 in this case, at the index 0 of array 1. Then 9, that is the next element in this list, will be automatically assigned to the index 1 of this array 1. 22, the next element in the list, will be automatically assigned to index 2 of the array 1. And 6, the last element in the list, will be automatically assigned to index 3 of the list, like this way. So here, as you can see, index 0 has 5, then index 1 has 9, 2 has 22, 3 has 6. Just you can do that in this way. And if I just want to show you using some notation, you can do something like, write something like this. Let's say this is my array 1. In index 0, I am assigning 5. Then array 2, this array 1, and there again this array 1, index 1, it is assigning 9. Then array 1, index 2 is having the value of 22. And finally, this array 1, index 3 has the value 6, like this. So this is a simple notation using which I have told that which index of array 1 has what values inside. So that's the first way of declaring and initializing an array, where I have declared as well as initialized or populated the array with different data items at the same line. Now let us focus on the second way of this. And in order to do that, let us just comment out this first declaration. And this is the second way of declaration. In the second way of declaration, we are going to divide the declaration and the initialization or population in a different part. So in the first part, we are just going to focus on the declaration, which is shown in this line. So in order to declare the array in a single line, you have to use the similar syntax that you have used before. So what do I need to do? First, of course, you have to specify the data type, that is what type of element you want to store in the data, which is integer in our case. Then followed by the opening and closing box bracket, which is actually saying the Java compiler that this is going to be an array, not a normal variable, just as before. Then again, just as before, you have to specify the name of the array, which is array 1 in our case. And now it is the time to make the array ready for holding some variable. And in order to do that, first, of course, just as before, you have to use an assignment operator, that is an equal symbol, followed by a new keyword, and then an integer, that is what type of variable you want to store. And then again, another set of opening and closing box bracket. Everything is same as before, what we have seen in this line, starting from here until here, instead of the actual assignment part. But Only one difference. Inside this, when you are declaring the array in a separate line, then you have to specify the size of the array inside this opening and closing box bracket, which was not present in the first case. Why was that? Because in the first case, I am in the same line, I am saying what are all the different data items that I am going to store. That is, I am going to store 5, 9, 22, and 6. That is, these 4 data items I am going to store in array 1. Everything is written in the same line. So the Java compiler doesn't need to know explicitly what is the size of the array. But here, since we are dividing both the parts, like declaring and the population part, uh, you have to store explicitly what is the size of the array inside this box bracket. Now, well, this 4 can be replaced with any other number based on the problem scenario. It can be 5, 6, and you can have any size of array. Now, in our case, we are interested to store 5, 9, 22, and 6. That is 4 different data items. That's why I have used 4. But it can be 5, 6, 10, 100, 10, 10,000, anything. Now, after this, now it's the time to actually initialize or populate the array with the data items. And for that, you can basically use this syntax shown here. Here actually I have used the array name followed by, inside a opening and closing box bracket, I have written the index where I want to store the value, and then followed by an assignment operator like this, and then what data item I want to store. So this entire line is basically saying that in the index 0 of array 1, I want to store 5. And this line is basically saying that at index 1 of array 1, I want to store 9. This line, index 2 of array 1, I want to store 22. And similarly, this line is saying at index 3 of array 1, I want to store 6. So this is another way of declaring the array and then populating the array with some real data items.